Joe Zekas. I'm from ChicagoRealEstateExperts.com. I'm sitting in the offices of Lino Darchun. Let's talk to sellers a bit.
Okay.
The market has been called challenging, non-existent.
At times. Truthfully, yes.
At times, difficult, in disarray.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the Lincoln Park market today? And let's tear it out. Let's take, say, single-family homes for one category.
Candidly, for the last 6 months, the market has been soft, slow, extremely slow. A lot of this has had nothing to do necessarily with the value of the property per se, but rather change in administrations as far as Washington is concerned, concerns over the war in Iraq, concerns over the stock market, the value of our 401ks becoming 201ks, so to speak. There's been a lot of alarm.
Mine's on its way to becoming a 101k.
See, in any case, there have been a lot of things at play this past year, not necessarily having anything to do or the fault of the real estate marketplace. Because there has been generalized chaos in the marketplace, there are a lot of people who have put off making decisions.
Because this is generally a $1.5 million plus decision in Lincoln Park.
It is. Now, unfortunately, there are people who have to sell for whatever reason. They've been transferred to San Francisco or to Atlanta, and it's at a time like that, particularly if they've only been in their home for maybe 4 or 5 years. If they bought in 2004 and were trying to sell in 2008 and even earlier this year, they could suffer a loss. Not necessarily a monumental loss, but they would not be making the same type of money. They would not be able to get the same type of money for the property that they purchased it for in 2004 and 2005. The unfortunate thing is that, first of all, I hate to tell a potential seller that he or she may have to take a loss in order to get their property sold, because
Is the seller first hearing it from you, or are they first hearing that from you, or
No.
Are they aware of that already?
That's a perfectly valid question, Joe, and sometimes I wonder where some sellers are, because they behave as if it's business as usual. They behave as if it's 2004, 2005, and there's times when I want to say, excuse me, but have you been reading the newspaper? Have you been paying attention? Watching television, any of these things. But hope springs eternal with sellers, and they'll say something to the effect of, well, that may be true. However, we put a new sink into the guest bedroom, into the guest bathroom, and therefore we think that our property is worth substantially more than it was when we bought it. And this is where it gets a little bit difficult. This is where it gets a little bit awkward. But yet, on the same token, I don't want to take an overpriced listing, because I don't really think that I'm doing my client any good. That having been said, I know that if I don't take it, some Johnny-come-lately in the industry who's just looking for his or her first listing will take it at any price. Mm-hmm. So what I normally will do is reach some sort of compromise with the seller, indicating that, okay, we'll try it at your price point for 30 days.
30 days.
Right, and if we don't move it, then you agree to drop it to what I consider to be the appropriate market value. And the other side of the coin is that, sad to say, and this is so frustrating, sometimes the statistics line up ideally, and I can show in simple black and white how property values have declined. In other cases, some buyer will come from out of state frequently from New York, frequently from California, where they're expecting to pay 3 times more than they're paying here in Chicago. And they will buy a property that could easily have been negotiated down maybe 10, even 15% because it's been on the market for 312 days. And either because of bad advice, or failure to examine the marketplace closely, they'll pay that top dollar. And all of a sudden, we have that one comparable that just glares out, and believe it or not,
Well, this is a real low market. Why wouldn't I hold out for one of those slow-flying pigeons to come my way?
say that again, Joe? I mean,
This is a real low market. Why, as a seller, why wouldn't I hold out for one of those pigeons to fall into my
because
lap?
you may regrettably have to wait forever. When we take a listing, we have no idea as to how
I'm
soon it'll
likely
sell.
to wait for 6 months to a year on a $2 million listing anyway, aren't I?
You may be forced to, but the truth of the matter is you probably don't want to, because the moment you give the listing to me, it's no longer your house, it's my house, as I frequently tell, because I'm going to be calling for showings, 3 or 4 times a week, whatever the market will bear. The truth is that
There's that much showing activity still, possibly?
well, right now, we do have a definite uptick in showing activity. There's no doubt about it. Furthermore, I'm going to go back to something that I've said for 22 years, and that is that if it's a decent property, decently located, that's priced right, it'll sell in any market. And this has been proven out even in the last 6 months or year when things have been very, very bleak. A well-priced property, and by well-priced, I don't necessarily mean giveaway, markdown, 40% off or anything like that.
Priced where the market really is.
Priced where the market really is. The people who get burned in real estate, unfortunately, are those people who have to leave for whatever reason, whose property, they haven't owned their property long enough for it to appreciate, to get us through this rough period that we're going through. And again, I'm noticing this right now in people who bought during 2004 and 2005. Some of them, if they're leaving now, are not going to break even, or they'll just barely break even. If they didn't have to move, and again, that is the issue, and I think that's almost more important than the true value of the property, is if they did not have to move 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and I don't think I'm being a pathological optimist here, we'll be through this bump in the road, and either the property will maintain its appreciation or continue to appreciate, as most property does.
Are there people who are making the decision to not move based on those kind of considerations?
There are some that are able to do that. What we've seen in some cases, again, depending upon the price point, we've seen where they're renting out. In fact, there's been a number of clients who have needed X amount of dollars out of their property, and we've tried to sell it over a 3 or 4 month period, and we've gotten nowhere. I mean, in other words, there was just market resistance. And under those circumstances, what I have suggested, and again, to say this is a very difficult thing for me to do, but I sometimes encourage them to rent. The reason I don't like to encourage them to rent is that, sad to say, Joe, that with the sole exception of you, me, and the people watching this tape, most rental tenants do not take care of a home as well as a owner does. And unfortunately, sometimes renting out a desirable property for a year will cause depreciation of that property.